The fog was thick over Evercrest Cemetery, and caretaker Tom Avery hated Halloween nights most of all. The dead, he always said, got restless when the air smelled like pumpkins and candle wax. He'd lit 31 jack-o'-lanterns along the main path, a tradition to keep the spirits calm. But as the clock struck midnight, the pumpkins flickered violently, their flames stretching high before vanishing all at once. The sudden darkness pressed against Tom like a weight. "Not tonight," he muttered, gripping his lantern. From the far corner of the graveyard came a sound, wet, cracking, rhythmic. The ground was shifting. At grave 77, the soil split open, and a decayed hand pushed through. Then another. And another. The stench of rot filled the air as bodies dragged themselves out of the earth, their faces half melted, eyes burning like candlelight trapped behind flesh. Among them was a small child holding a broken pumpkin mask, whispering, "We're cold." Tom stumbled backward, his lantern shaking. He fired a warning shot into the air, but the noise only made them rush faster, silent except for their creaking bones. He ran for the chapel, slamming the door behind him, praying aloud. Then he heard her voice, Sarah, his wife, dead for 12 years. "Tom, you promised you'd come back." He turned slowly. There she was, standing among the pews, her wedding dress shredded, face hollow yet familiar. "Sarah." His voice cracked. She smiled, and her jaw snapped open unnaturally wide, spilling black smoke. The church's crucifix began to twist, candles melting upward. The windows burst, and a wave of orange fire swept through the chapel, as the graves outside cracked open like eggshells. By sunrise, the cemetery was gone, replaced by a massive field of dead pumpkins, their carved faces twisted into silent screams. In the center stood a new headstone, Tom Avery, Keeper of the Harvest. At night, travelers still see a lantern swinging there, moving through the mist, and if you listen close, you'll hear him whisper, "I'm still keeping watch." Carved pumpkin. Halloween night hung over Gravemorn City like a dying ember. Rain poured through clouds the color of bruised metal, washing away confetti, candy wrappers, and the last traces of life. The streets were silent except for the faint hum of sirens echoing through the distance. Detective Ryan Cole moved through the downpour, his flashlight beam slicing the fog. "Final sweep," he muttered, his voice hollow. He should have left days ago, but duty, or guilt, kept him behind. Puddles glowed faintly orange beneath his boots, the chemical runoff from the hollow strain outbreak that had turned Gravemorn into a ghost city. He stopped in front of St. Aidan's Children's Hospital, its sign flickering weakly. The front doors were ajar, creaking in the storm. "Anyone inside?" he shouted. Only silence answered, then a faint laugh echoed from deep within. Against his better judgment, Cole entered. The air was thick with antiseptic and decay, and the walls glowed faintly orange from smeared handprints. He followed the sound to room 302. A small girl sat on a hospital bed wearing a pumpkin print gown, her eyes glowing dimly. "Hey there," he said gently. "It's okay. I'm here to help." She tilted her head, smiling. "You came too late. They've already woken up." "Who?" he whispered. Her smile split unnaturally wide. "The harvesters." A scraping sound came from beneath the bed. Cole stepped back as skeletal hands clawed their way out, small bodies dragging themselves into the light, their faces twisted into half-melted grins. Their eyes blazed orange as they chanted, "Trick or treat, trick or treat." He fired twice, then ran, their laughter echoing behind him. The corridor lights flickered as he sprinted for the stairwell. Something moved in the vents above, whispering his name. His radio crackled suddenly, and a trembling voice came through, "Detective Cole. This is Dr. Evelyn Shaw. If you're hearing this, the strain adapts. Don't use light or sound, it feeds on both. Kill the power. Then static." He reached the rooftop and collapsed against the railing, breathing hard. From above, Gravemorn looked like a nightmare, streets pulsing orange, thousands of infected moving in unison. Their heads glowed like jack-o'-lanterns, faces locked in carved grins. At the city's center, a massive figure began to rise, its shape forged from hundreds of fused bodies, a living monument of infection. It looked almost human, but its skull was carved with triangular eyes and a jagged grin. "The Pumpkin King," Cole whispered. Behind him, a door slammed open. Dr. Shaw staggered onto the roof, her face pale and veins glowing faintly. "You shouldn't have stayed," she rasped. "The city breathes now. The infection learned to live without hosts, it's part of the air." Cole pointed his gun. "There has to be a way to stop it." She handed him a small black device. "This detonator will shut down the entire grid, no light, no heat, no sound. But it'll take us with it." Lightning split the sky, revealing the Pumpkin King's enormous grin. Its roar shook the buildings, scattering embers into the storm. Cole stared at the detonator, then at the glowing sea below. "Better darkness than this," he whispered, and pressed the button. The explosion wasn't fiery, it was silent. The lights of Gravemorn winked out, one by one, until the entire city was swallowed by shadow. A few seconds of stillness followed, then the screaming began. Every infected body ignited in a burst of orange fire, before collapsing into ash. The Pumpkin King convulsed and melted into a pool of glowing liquid that hissed and faded with the rain. When dawn broke, Gravemorn was quiet again. Every street was coated in orange dust. The hospital's power grid was fried, and Dr. Shaw was gone. Cole sat slumped near the railing, breathing shallowly, watching the storm fade. "It's over," he muttered. But from below came a low electrical hum, one generator still alive somewhere in the ruins. 3 days later, rescue teams entered the city. They found no survivors, only empty streets and a layer of orange ash that shimmered faintly at night. On the rooftop of St. Aidan's, they discovered Cole's flashlight still glowing beside a carved pumpkin, its face not smiling but scowling. Etched into the concrete beneath it were the words, "Darkness saved us once. But the lights always come back on, carved pumpkin." Halloween night had always been the biggest night of the year for radio station WZ13, a small-town frequency famous for its ghost stories and haunted sound effects. Host Lydia Kane, dressed in a tattered witch costume, sat alone in the dark booth as lightning flashed outside the studio windows. Her pumpkin-shaped microphone light flickered in rhythm with her voice. "Welcome, night owls," she purred, "to the Halloween midnight special, where the dead don't just rest, they request." She laughed, but then, a long, ear-piercing emergency tone echoed through the studio. It wasn't part of her show. The screen blinked red, "National Emergency Broadcast, Containment Breach. Avoid all contact. Shelter indoors." She frowned. "That can't be real," she muttered. Then the studio phones started ringing, all 12 lines at once. Every caller's voice was trembling. "They are in the streets, their eyes, they glow. Lydia went to the window, peering down at the city. Through the rain, she saw people stumbling, jerking unnaturally, faces lit from within by a sickly orange glow like living jack-o'-lanterns. A bloodied man slammed against the studio's glass door. "Turn off the signal," he screamed before collapsing. When Lydia approached, he twitched, his body spasming, bones cracking as he stood again, his eyes hollow, mouth grinning too wide. "Join us," he hissed. She locked herself in the booth as pounding fists and screams filled the hallway. Her broadcast light turned on again by itself, and she heard her own distorted voice whispering through the headset. The frequency spreads faster than blood. The radio static seemed alive, whispering, laughing, calling her name. By dawn, the city was silent. A rescue team entered WZ 13 days later. Every wall was painted with streaks of orange, and the soundboard kept replaying Lydia's final message, "Happy Halloween, forever." Her chair still rocked as if someone had just left it. The pumpkin microphone light flickered one last time and went out. Carved pumpkin. It began as a harmless experiment inside Hollowvale Biotech, where scientists hoped to engineer crops that would naturally glow for Halloween displays. Dr. Mia Torres, the project's lead researcher, called it the pumpkin serum. But within a month, the plants began mutating, releasing spores that caused animals to rot and regenerate with orange-veined flesh. "We've created something that doesn't die," Mia whispered into her log recorder. On Halloween night, containment alarms screamed through the facility. The main lab was drenched in red warning light. Security footage showed infected researchers clawing at walls, their veins glowing under their skin like molten vines. As Mia ran through the hallways, she could hear the staff chanting, softly, like a ritual, "We are the harvest, we are the soil."